Chapter 18, Resurgence of Darkness. As Aika's world faded to black, a chilling silence enveloped her, broken only by the distant echoes of her own screams. A scream so horrible, it clawed at the edges of sanity, driving her towards the brink of madness. The sound reverberated through the empty void, a piercing wail that echoed endlessly, like the anguished cry of a wounded animal. She had never imagined that the sound of her own scream could haunt her so relentlessly, a reminder of agony that shook her to her core. In that moment of pure despair, the silence was shattered only by the swirling cacophony of her own torment, a horrifying symphony that echoed in the depths of her soul. Her arms and remaining leg are torn from her body, the creatures holding them aloft like trophies as they merge with their grotesque forms. Aika's head lolls to the side, her vision swimming with pain and terror as she watches in horror as her body is consumed by the monstrous abominations. And then, in a final act of cruelty, her head is torn from her shoulders and placed atop the creature's body, a grotesque mockery of the life she once knew. In that moment of darkness, as her blood spills out onto the cavern floor, Aika's world fades to black. The darkness of oblivion wrapped around Aika like a suffocating cloak, pulling her deeper into its abyssal depths. In the realm of the void, time seemed to lose its meaning, stretching endlessly into eternity. Yet amidst the endless expanse of nothingness, a faint glimmer of consciousness stirred within her, a flicker of awareness amidst the consuming darkness. As if from the depths of a nightmare, the shadowy figure of the creature emerged once more, its form swirling with malevolent energy as it descended upon the grotesque abominations that had torn Aika apart. With a chilling growl that reverberated through the cavern, it set upon the monsters with a savage fury, tearing through their flesh with razor-sharp claws and gnashing teeth. Each blow struck with deadly precision, rending flesh from bone and sending blood and viscera spraying across the cavern floor. The creatures, once fearsome in their own right, stood no chance against the wrath of the shadow beast as it tore through them one by one, a relentless force of destruction. With each kill, the creature grew more frenzied, its movements becoming more erratic as it tore into its prey with increasing ferocity. The cavern echoed with the sounds of screams and roars, the clash of claws, and the sickening crunch of bones as the battle raged on. And then, as the last of the monster's horde fell beneath its onslaught, the creature turned its attention to the lifeless body of Aika, her bloodied form lying discarded amidst the carnage. With a guttural growl of hunger, it descended upon her, its teeth sinking into her flesh with a sickening squelch. As it devoured her remains, tearing away flesh and bone with ravenous fervor, Aika's consciousness stirred once more, awakening within the darkness of the creature's belly. In a frenzy of agony and despair, she clawed her way through the writhing mass of flesh, her body reforming from the remnants of her former self. Piece by piece, her limbs reattached themselves to her body, her flesh knitting together with a grotesque semblance of life. And as the last of her wounds closed, Aika tore her way now fully out of the creature's belly, her body dripping with blood and viscera as she emerged from its grotesque confines. But she was no longer the same as she was before. Her body had grown taller and more mature, her features sharpened by the horrors she had endured. With a newfound strength coursing through her veins, she stood tall amidst the remnants of the creature's feast, her eyes gleaming with a primal hunger as she surveyed the carnage around her. She stood there, shaken and silent, her body trembling with adrenaline as she gazed upon the lifeless bodies strewn before her. Admiring the macabre scene that surrounded her, she was at a loss for words, her mind struggling to comprehend the horrors she had just witnessed. Alone in the dark tunnels, she stood naked and exposed, her skin slick with warm blood that dripped in thick rivulets down her body. Her form had changed, her breasts fuller, her stature taller, her skin cold and heavy with the weight of her ordeal. With her arms hanging lifelessly at her sides, she remained motionless, her mind racing with questions and uncertainty. How had she returned from the void? Was it Master Vladis who had saved her, or was there some other force at work in the shadows? She looked down at herself, her gaze shifting to where the monster had severed her foot and other limbs. With trembling hands, she pushed aside the congealing blood, her fingers tracing over her skin, searching for any sign of scars or wounds. To her astonishment, there were none, no marks, no remnants of the grisly attack that had torn her apart. Her disbelief deepened as she took in the changes to her body. She noticed how she had aged, how her once youthful features had matured into those of a young woman. The realization washed over her, leaving her feeling both bewildered and strangely empowered by the transformation. Her cheeks flushed with embarrassment as she glanced down at her fuller breasts, the unfamiliar weight of them drawing her attention. With a shaky breath, she tore her gaze away, her mind reeling with thoughts of what had transpired. Reaching for her pack, she retrieved the rags she had worn before acquiring the leather armor. They were small on her now, barely covering her newly formed curves, but they would suffice for the time being. She dressed quickly, securing the ragged garments around her body before retrieving her weapons. Her short sword, small round shield, and rapier lay nearby, unharmed by the horrors that had unfolded. She strapped them to her sides, the weight of them familiar and comforting against her newly hardened skin. With her backpack secured firmly on her back, she took a deep breath, steeling herself for whatever lay ahead.